How many seniors pay their juniors decent salaries? If you are staying in Delhi or Mumbai or Bangalore or Calcutta, how much does it cost for a young lawyer to survive? Even in a place like Allahabad, if a young lawyer is coming in from the districts, you have to find place to stay, you have to find place to pay, some rent to pay, transportation, food. Our young lawyers do not have even chambers where they are paid money. That must change. And the burden of doing that is on us as senior members of the profession. But too long we regard the youngsters in our profession as slave workers. Why? Because that's how we grew up. We can't now tell the young lawyers today that that's how we ambit. The idea is to make life more transparent, more efficient for young members of the bar. Let me give you an example. If a young lawyer today wants to access Supreme Court judgments or High Court judgments, you have to pay a hefty fee to purchase a software by one of the top software providers. One of the things which I felt was, is there no way for us to provide these judgments free of cost to young lawyers? I am provided a very fine software by the funds of the Union of India as a judge, because you require these funds for proper software for our judges. But look at the plight of a young lawyer before a civil judge junior division in a taluka court. We today on the National Judicial Data Grid, we have 77 lakh High Court judgments which have already been uploaded. Now, if all these 77 now, I've constituted a committee of 3 judges of the High Court, Justice Rajiv Shankar of the Delhi High Court, Justice Raja Vijay Raghavan of the Kerala High Court, and Justice Suraj Govindaraj of Karnataka High Court, to bring out uniform neutral citations. And I'm expecting that the report will be delivered to us very shortly, so that all these judgments which are now loaded on the NJDJ can be cited in a court of law. So this will be an enormous benefit to young lawyers who can access these judgments. If we do not provide the means for young lawyers to access judgments, to read judgments, how will they learn the law? And if they have to pay a hefty fee to even get judgments of the Supreme Court or the High Courts, how will they have access to the law? We must not expect young lawyers, senior lawyers, middle-level lawyers, or our citizens to reach out to courts. The courts must reach out to them. So as part of the phase 3 of our e-courts project, we are setting up e-seva kendras in every court establishment. Even in the Supreme Court, when we want matters to be filed through e-filing, as so many of your bar counselors have told me, lawyers don't have laptops. Young lawyers may not have desktops. But why should the court system exclude them? So we propose to set up, and we are in the process of setting up e-seva kendras across India in every court establishment where all these services will be available. Under the Digital India mission of the Union government, the CSCs, the service corporations, are going to provide e-services at the level of every Gram Panchayat. We have fused our e-court services with the CSC centers so that down to the level of each Gram Panchayat, these facilities of courts, whether it is in terms of knowledge about the next date of hearing, judicial orders, various other services can be provided to all our citizens. Let me briefly deal with one or two other issues which are very close to my heart before I conclude, which is the issue of legal education. Very often we are asked as judges, why don't we have more women in the high courts? Why don't we have more women in the Supreme Court? Why is there no woman judge in the Patna High Court? Now, one thing which we need to understand is that the face of the legal profession today, or the face of the judicial institutions today, the face of the Supreme Court today, the face of the High Courts today, reflects the state of the legal profession 30 years ago, and the case of the Supreme Court 40 years ago. Now, what happens as a result is that if we do not create an equal opportunity legal profession today, these problems which confront the marginalized communities, not just women, but marginalized communities, will continue to fester in our legal profession decades down the line. So if we have to improve the state of access to opportunities to higher judicial offices, we have to change the face of the legal profession today. in terms of who enters the legal profession. And the responsibility for that is not just of the government or the higher judiciary. The responsibility for that is of all of you as citizens, as lawyers. In our profession, is it not very commonplace that juniors find seniors on the basis of an informal network? Some will call it an old boys club, but at least there are networks. We do not have a merit-based method of selecting young lawyers who will be recruited to chambers. How many seniors pay their juniors decent salaries? If you are staying in Delhi or Mumbai or Bangalore or Calcutta, how much does it cost for a young lawyer to survive? Even in a place like Allahabad, if a young lawyer is coming in from the districts, you have to find place to stay, you have to find place to pay, some rent to pay, transportation, food. Our young lawyers do not have even chambers where they are paid money. That must change. And the burden of doing that is on us as senior members of the profession. But too long we regard the youngsters in our profession as slave workers. Why? Because that's how we grew up. We can't now tell the young lawyers today that that's how we grew up. You know, this was the old ragging principle in Delhi University. Those who are ragged always ragged those people who are below them. Because it was you're passing on the blessings of being ragged, you see. Sometimes it got very bad. But the point is that seniors today cannot say that, well, that's how I learned the law in the hard way, and therefore I will now not pay my juniors. Those times were very different. Families were smaller, there was family resources, and so many young lawyers who could have made it to the top never made it, for the simple reason that they had no resources. So this structure of the legal profession, which is so patriarchal, sometimes so caste-based, has to change so that we as lawyers discharge our duties to our society to make the legal profession open up to our people from different communities, from the marginalized groups in our society.